students, welcome to Business Communication class with me Adela Samuel, Head Department of Accounting and Finance. In today's class, the topic is going to be tenders. What is a tender? First we'll see that. It is a published advertisement issued by the company and government department inviting vendors or service providers to make their offer for supply of goods and services. Agencies give tender notice. The willing suppliers respond to the tender notice. If the agencies approve the tender, it becomes a binding contract. Okay, so what did you understand from this definition? A tender is a letter that is written by any company in reply to an invite given by a company or a government department. So if a government department is offering some project that the government is taking up, they will offer an offering letter to different companies to take up the project. So once they get an offer, the companies which are willing to take up the offer will write a tender mentioning about whether they are going to take up the project and for what rate, what will be the price range for all the project material and all those things. They will write a contract, and that letter is what is called as a tender notice. This will be sent back to the company or the government which has offered the offering. So that kind of letter is what we call as a tender. If suppose the tender is approved, it becomes a binding contract. There are a few guidelines that has to be followed in case of writing a tender letter. So what are those guidelines for the preparation of a tender is what we are going to see in this slide. The advertiser must give his name and address at the top of the letter. Below the advertiser's name, date and tender notice number should be printed. So when you're writing a tender letter, the advertiser's name and address should be written on the top. Below the advertiser's name, the date and the tender notice number should be written. So the companies will have a number for every tender. So that has to be mentioned. Second one, the name of the author who is giving the tender should be mentioned. So the name of the author in the sense, whichever company is taking up the tender, the company's name or the person representing the company, their name should be specified in the tender. Third point, the contents of the tender should include the following. Okay, so what are the things that has to be given in the contents? Date and time of issue of the tender document, date and time of receipt of the tenders, date and time of opening the tender, cost of tender document, earnest money to be deposited, eligibility criteria prescribed. The issuing authority of the tender reserves the right to accept or reject the tender without assigning any reason. Signature of the issuing authority. So when the issue of the tender is given, all these details should be present in the contents of the letter. So the body, that is the content of the letter. All these variety of points should be mentioned in the content of the letter so that people who are reading this tender letter will understand each and every point clearly. That is why these guidelines are given to us. This is a sample tender letter that is given. Sample as usual, the name of the address, the contact number, date, name of the person, the company, everything has to be mentioned clearly just like in the guidelines. Now in the content of the letter, look at how they are writing the content. And then the content reference number and title is also given before the content. I'll read the content to you. We would like to offer to supply the above goods or services at the firm and fixed prices shown in the enclosed pricing schedule. Our tender remains open for acceptance for a period of 90 calendar days following the tender closing date. It is confirmed that the date will be given. Terms and conditions are acceptable. This tender fully complies with your specification. Attention is drawn to some innovative proposals at the back of the submission. So they also give certain details like attention is drawn to some innovative proposals at the back of the submission. Should you need any further details, it will be supplied by the unsigned at the above address. Unsigned at the above address. Okay, so and then they go on for the signature. So this is how a tender letter is given. A covering letter is written and then the tender will be attached at the back. The details of the prices, all that will be enclosed at the back. So any specification that is required by the receiving company, they will ask for further queries and which will be granted again. So that is how a tender letter has to be written. This is one of the simple examples of a tender letter. This is another form of a tender notice letter which is written by a company. See, they have mentioned their name, the name of the company, notice inviting tenders, and then they have also written a particular tender number also is written there, number 5CE 2006, and the date is mentioned. So what is written in the contents? The purchase manager PVS Enterprise Limited, Gandhi Marg, Surat, invites sealed tenders from Indian vendors for the supply of goods stated below. Further details are available in the tender document available on our website. With the website address is given from where they may be downloaded. So the tender reference number is given, items are given, tender fee is given, earnest money deposit, that is initial money that has to be transferred, that is called as the earnest money, that also is given to them. Note, date of issue of the tender document is given, last day for receipt of tender is given, date of opening of tenders, time and date, everything is given, and then the company receives the right to reject any or all tenders without assigning any reason. So this is how a tender notice will be sent to different companies, and based on this tender notice, the companies will reply back to the company which has given the notice, and they will say that we will take up the tender for this price for for all the products that they have mentioned, and they will also mention the tender reference number that is given. So based on the dates and all that, they will have to reply at the right time. So this is one of the examples of a tender notice letter. So thank you very much students for listening patiently to this class. I hope you've understood what a tender letter and a tender notice is. Please do practice a few letters, write it in your own words so that you will get the hang of writing a nice worded tender letter. Thank you girls.